Good afternoon. I'm Toby Egan, Mayor of the City of Pierce. I have with me today some very distinguished guests of mine. This meeting today, we're going to be talking with and about our school bond referendum that's coming up on April 10th of this year. I'd like to introduce the crowd we have today. This is Mary Korf.
Hello there.
We have Councilmember Dave Fisher, Superintendent of Pierce Schools, George Weber.
Thank you, Toby.
Jim Gerwing, and Harold Meyer. And sitting alongside of me right here, our city administrator, Nicole Nordland / Smoody. No, there's no slash. We thought it would be very beneficial to our residents to actually sit down and have a very casual, loose conversation about what the school referendum is, some more details about that, and some of the benefits that our city receives from the school district and open enrollment. So I think we're all going to sit around and ask George. We're going to put George, not to say on the hot seat, but he's going to provide a lot of information for us and for you at home. Hopefully we'll answer any questions that you may have. First of all, George, thank you very much for coming and sitting down with us this evening.
Well, thank you. Having the opportunity to speak to people, having the opportunity to educate people about what we're trying to do in our schools is critical. And actually, in some ways, that might be one of the lessons learned for me as a school administrator. So my personality is such that when you hire me, I just want to work hard and do a good job, and people should look at the work I do, and if that's good, then we'll move on. If not, then you should get somebody better. That's how I've always looked at it. But I think what I've learned over the last couple of years is I also have to do the job of communicating everything we're doing. And it used to be I didn't realize how important it was to not just make good decisions, but then tell everybody about them over a long period of time. So we've done a lot of work this year with e-newsletters, with getting information out, with posting on Facebook, just trying to find all the different avenues where people gather information about our schools, including the survey, which we've never, I guess as Pierce schools have never ever done a survey about what people think about their schools. The failed referendum last year prompted that, but we also asked other questions about how do you get your information. And it's interesting the dynamics or the results we got from that survey, that a certain age group gets it almost exclusively from Little Falls Radio and Morris County Record. Another age group gets it almost exclusively from the text messages that our teachers send them, or Facebook's posts, or a website, or depending upon your age bracket. There's an email bracket, there's a radio bracket, and then there's a texting bracket. And you almost have to live in all of those mediums to communicate with your different constituency, and that's kind of the thing we're trying to do now. So
yeah, I guess I found too with our cable access channel we have that it's fairly popular, and I think it's very popular amongst the senior citizens in our community. So it's a very good tool for us to try and communicate what's going on in the city by presenting our council meetings and things of this nature, and that's why I thought this was a really good forum and a great group of people to get together and talk about this issue. So, George, if you could explain to the public a little bit, just, you know, what's going on with the project, what is the project, what's the difference between maybe the project we had last year versus this year's project?
Well, our schools have been growing since I got here in 2002. Kind of slow but steady growth. We've had some years we've had a lot of kids and some years where it's kind of been flat, but the good news is we've emerged as a very good school system. We've emerged as a place where at least those who live in our near area want to send their children to. That's part of the open enrollment question. We've managed to use a lot of that money, save money, fix up things at the Healy's building, and even do an addition onto Pioneer and to Healy, but still keeping taxes flat. So the taxes that are on our books are really the Pioneer bond that was approved in 1992 at about $1.2 million. We had that bond re-upped in 2014 for that same amount of money. But currently our taxes are still at about that 1.2 million, and so everything we've done other than that bond has just been taking cash and fixing up things here and there for for quite a number of years.
And the taxes are 1.2 million, and the school district budget is,
About 13 and a half right now.
and where does the rest of that come from?
Just state aid.
State aid.
State aid. So basically the per pupil children that come into our school generate by far more than 90% of our total budget is state aid.
What is it per pupil, George?
Well, it's not a simple question because nothing that the schools ever, that our state government does is simple. It's weighted depending upon the grade you live in
Oh,
or grade you are in.
Right,
So first
okay.
graders get a little bit less than a sixth grader, who gets a little bit less than a ninth grader, and a kindergartner gets less than them, and that's
Okay.
that's how they fund.
okay,
But it's roughly about 7,000 per child.
okay.
So, and then you throw on a lot of other ancillary things like are they in special ed, are they entitled, is compensatory aid, and so
And that all comes out of that?
that's all state aid. Yep, there's a whole slew of different state funding formulas that we operate under. So,
But those open enrolled students bring that 7,000 or so
Right.
dollars with each one of them.
right, and that's sort of the nature of public schools, which kind of gets to a bigger conversation about. I had this conversation today with a former board member about government who was saying that, you know, everybody thinks you can't run government like a business, but you are. And it's working. And so there's certain parts of government where you can run like a business. And frankly, in Minnesota, that's what they want. You know, whatever. 25 years ago, our governor, our legislature said we want schools to compete against each other for parents' dollars. They changed it. In the old days, wherever you lived, you went, and that's just how it went. But our state said we want schools to compete, we want schools to run like a business, and we're gonna let the parents' money do the talking. And they get to send their money anywhere they want to, the state money basically, but it's in essence the parents' choice where their money goes.
But that is by far the biggest chunk of the money.
Yes, it is by far, and,
So simply put, the bigger, more aggressive schools survive,
right.
and the least aggressive, standstill schools stand still.
Right. Obviously, demographics is a big factor. Obviously, the economics of Minnesota are such that county lines don't matter anymore. Like when I was a child, going to Little Falls was a big deal. Now, there's regional centers, maybe 5 in the whole state. It's Brainerd, St. Cloud, Rochester, Fargo, Minneapolis, St. Paul, or Duluth. You know what I mean? That's, if you're not living there or living around there, you're shrinking. Pretty much in Minnesota, you know. That's just what we've become. So that, to me, that's another reason why our story is a success story, because we're managing to grow at a time when everybody who has our demographic is shrinking. Aiken, Staples, Long Parade. Think about the districts that used to be bigger than us, that aren't bigger than us now. You see it in sports, where suddenly we're in Class 3A, and how is Staples not? You know, you think of them as a big town, you know? And so to me, it's been a good thing for us. And I think of it even from the city of Pierce, you know, who are we? What do we want to be going forward? You know, we would all love it to have a ton of jobs here, but the nature of manufacturing is such that they're leaving even cities like St. Cloud now, with Electrolux leaving, and you know, Larson leaves, Little Falls, and so that's a challenge for us to ever get that kind of industry here. But what we can get is people who want to live here and spend money here, even if they work in Brainerd or St. Cloud. This might be the best place to raise a family, and that's what we can market, and that's what we can sell, and we can thrive on that. I feel like, and that's what I feel like I've been trying to be, and my staff have been trying to be, and I feel like that's kind of what the community expects, is that we're really trying to be that. So that's been our goal.
That's been our goal at the city level, as well as to be able to create a certain amount of additional tax base in people, so we can keep our expenses down as well. And you know, when I look at it, what our city is today versus what we're going to need in the future, you know, I mean, the facts are Pierce is still a bedroom community. You know, the facts are that we're starting to get some young people back in the city. And if we think about, you know, the future of our city in the next 15, 20, 25 years, you know, if we don't have those youth that are wanting to come back into Piers and live and raise families here, you know, Piers shrinks, you know. And when Piers shrinks, and this goes both for the school district and the city, the city also shrinks, the school district shrinks. And, you know, if we don't have a certain amount of growth, that is not good for our city or our school district. And I think open enrollment, I know that the school board had capped open enrollment. Personally, I believe that open enrollment has been good for all of us in a lot of different ways. And I also believe it's going to be extremely hard for the school district now to hold their line on a flat tax if they don't continue to get these open enrollment dollars. So, you know, there's a cost to education. You know, I on one hand would like to see my money go towards something that is physical, something I can put my hands on and say, you know, my tax dollars went to this school project and we got some new buildings, we've got better classrooms, we've got better kitchens, we have better parking, we're getting kids out of the modular buildings and things of that nature, versus just watching my tax dollars go for administrative costs and things of that nature, which is going to go up and expenses go up. So to have those physical assets, I think are really important.
And realistically, the administrative costs, the number of kids, you have more kids, the administrative cost really doesn't go up proportional with the number of kids.
Right.
What you need is to get the kids in there and dilute out your administrative costs.
You've got your standard costs and you've got your variable costs.
Right.
And your standard costs where administration is going to fall into,
Kind of.
and pretty well it's gonna stay the same, whether we add buildings or not, so.
No, but open enrollment, you know, it's
And we can add
yeah,
open enrollment
right,
and not
right,
increase our
right.
non-variable costs.
If you don't have any of the open enroll kids, you'll have more money thrown on the rest of the kids. I mean, you'll have less money to work with to spread out towards administrative costs and building costs.
Right, right.
Yeah, and when you discuss open enrollment, if all you have to do is look at some neighboring school districts that are not getting the open enrolled students, in fact are losing the open enrolled students, and it's becoming very, very difficult for them to operate. It's hard to offer classes because you don't have enough kids for some of them. It's a lot better to be in the growing up position we're in than to be the growing down position a lot of these school districts are in.
And the amazing number of classes that are college classes now that are offered at the high school.
Yeah.
Just when I realized
Yes.
how many there were, actually, it surprised me. It really did.
Yeah.
Huge
It's really
savings for
neat.
people that
It
are
is
going
huge.
to college.
Well, you've got, I'm betting about 25% of the seniors are now graduating with AA degrees
Probably not quite that high,
Okay,
but
about-
probably 5 to 10 every year.
versus other schools that you have a very
Right.
few students doing it.
But if you're just a couple of credits or a few credits shy of that, gosh, what an
Right.
economic
So a lot of them go to
savings
school
the
and-
parents.
Big
Yeah.
savings.
Yeah, you don't have the AA
City
degree, they
mom
shave a
and
year
pop.
off. You know, they graduate with 3 instead of 4. So.
Right, right.
And
It's a
speaking in
big
behalf of
mess.
senior citizens, you know, and I'm one of the senior citizens in the home and in town here, and many times you go to groups and then they say, well, you know, my kids are all through school and I'm a senior citizen, so why should I vote yes for this? Because I have no use for it. And then I sort of turn around and say, wait a minute, you know, when we were young, we moved into town, our kids all went to school here. And at that time, the school was an excellent school. And somebody in our behalf built that school for us, gave us a good place to send our children to be educated. And I guess as you get older, you say, well, yeah, maybe I don't need the school, but I think it's my turn to pay some people for what they gave me way back then. And most of the seniors, like I say, the better share of them are physically, financial to do that. And I think sometimes they have to step up and do that also.
Very good point, Harry. Very well taken.
It's kind of like paying it forward.
Paying it forward, yes,
Somebody
because
did it
it's,
for
it's
you.
part of your responsibility as a community for giving back what you received in the past. I feel really strong about that, and that was always my answer, and that's something I feel strong about.
I think we're drawing well-educated students, prior students, back to the community too. They're moving back into the community to help make everything better too, and for their kids to go to school here. We, for one, our youngest daughter moved back to Piers so that her kids can go to school here. And we have an excellent education.
And this is very noticeable, and when you go through
Yeah.
the school district, is you see the amount of graduates from here who went through college, and want to come back
Coming
and
back
teach here.
here.
And there's a reason for that.
That's
They
right.
feel good about their community, and I think we want to try to continue to do that. At least I do. I feel really good when I see these students come back and say, I'm so happy I went to school here. I want my children to be raised here too.
And speaking to Mary's point about students moving back, bringing families back, I sold 3 homes just in the last year to families moving back because they wanted to move into the Pierce School District. Talked to another realtor just this afternoon. I asked him if he sold any. He said, yeah, he can think of, he rattled off 3 of them right away. So that's 6 just from 2 of us realtors. There are, contrary to what some people may think, there are indeed people that are looking for homes in this district just because of the schools. They have children and they want to move back here to be in this school district. And I see it every day. I see it all the time throughout the year. So there are people moving back because they want to be in this district.
And here I thought it was because they like the city council.
The mayor.
I don't
The mayor.
we were able to overlook some of those things.
Well, and they didn't move out. You know, the neighborhood I live in, when I moved in there wasn't a kid on that circle, not a one. Now they got a half a busload.
Well, you were, Jim, you were an ARA kid.
Yeah.
No, I think there's like 15, 16 kids in that circle.
That's
Now,
nice
there
to
wasn't
see.
a one there 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some of them grew up there. They didn't move in there, but 2 of their families moved in there, actually.
Right.
And that's kind of nice. So hopefully we'll see those kids also coming back, you know, in the future. And I had to tell you from my perspective, over the last several years, I think the school district has done a remarkable job at also being able to provide jobs to our kids to bring them back here, to allow them to come back. We seem to turn out a lot of kids in this community, and I think it's directly because they went to school here who want to become teachers, and you know, they're providing opportunities for those kids, and that is great, and that also helps with our future. Keeps our money here, you know, improves our housing markets and our resale values and things of that nature. So that's really important as well. So I give the school district a ton of credit for taking the initiative to do that, and that's helped our city out a lot.
That is something about the resale value. The elderly people, like Harry said, you know, some of them say, well, kids are there, but eventually you're going to want to sell your house.
Right.
And you want more services in town, and to get more services in town, you need to have more people. And if we have more people coming to town, the better off we are.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
more likely we'll have more services.
Right.
Actually, for a town this size, to have literally all the services that you could want almost, to get almost anything, is really kind of amazing. If you look around the country and you go through smaller towns, most of them have almost nothing for a business, if you want to call it district. You know?
And speaking to that note, Jim, people that are retiring and looking at selling their home, this referendum passing will, and the fact that we have a good school district, period, only increases the market value of your home.
Yes, it does.
The amount
I
of
agree.
taxes that you're going to go up in the next 10 years isn't anywhere near what your home's value is going to go up. So if you're really sitting in a situation where you're going to sell in the next 4 or 5 years, you should be out campaigning for this big time because it's money in your pocket.
That's true.
I have to agree with you, Dave.
Yeah, that's
The more we can create in the area, the larger our school gets, the more people we have coming and wanting to come in here, and the more people to do business in the area.
And it grows the town. And Toby was kind of hitting on it before. The community and the school will work together. You're not going to grow one without growing the
No.
other. The two have to go together. If you become stagnant with one, the other one's going to become stagnant.
Yes.
And that's our goal on the council, of course,
Absolutely.
is to keep the community going. And of course, our goal at the school is to keep the school growing.
And they don't necessarily all come to Piers either. Look at Buckman, the stuff that was built
And
there.
when I say that, I mean the surrounding
It's not
areas.
just,
Absolutely.
you know, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
just Piers.
Yeah.
There are people that choose to go into the neighboring towns also, but
Right.
still be in this school district.
Yes.
George, I have a question for you. It's kind of off subject, but can you explain the egg to school 40% tax credit?
Yes. So it's a new law passed in spring of 2017 in the legislature. So it just is enacted for taxes that are effective in 2018. So the law is framed such that for any school district in the state, if your ag land is paying in for a school construction bond, the state will pay 40% of what you were supposed to pay in.
Okay.
So it's limited to that number. So it has to be only taxes that are for school construction and no other taxes. So it's specific to bonds. So it's basically their payment on the bond. So for example, right now, Piers has about a $280,000 payment on the bond from the one we did in 2018. So whatever portion of that ag land pays, the state's just picking up their share of that tab. And that would be for any new bond levies too. So this one would be that as well.
And the homeowner doesn't have to do anything, they're just picking that up already, so they don't have
Right,
to.
there was a lot of questions on how that's worded. It's a new law, so people have never dealt with it before.
Mhm.
It actually shows up in their property tax statement as a credit already paid.
Wow.
And it doesn't say ag to school, which is kind of confusing because that's the name of the law. I think it says something about school credit of some sort, and so.
So it makes it user friendly.
Yeah, they don't really have to file anything, which is one of the questions I've been asked by people calling me. What do I have to do? Do I have to claim it? And so on and so on. The easiest way to explain it, frankly, is to have them pull out their property tax statement that exists right now, and they will see a little line on there.
That's great.
So, yep.
Makes it easy for them to utilize and.
Yeah, it's made a big difference, and I've got a lot of ag data actually, and one of the interesting things is that the taxes that was paid on ag, there's ag land and there's ag homestead land. Almost everything in our district is homestead, which means the value of your buildings and your land, it's really just minus the value of your house and garage. So that's it. So that part is paid out like homestead would be if you lived in town, but the rest is paid on ag homestead. And with the ag homestead credit, the actual taxes that this bond would impact would be about $39 for every $100,000 of land you own. So you just kind of do the math on that. So if you have $600,000 of ag homestead land, your taxes would be $235 a year. So
That's a pretty good deal. I know, George, one of the concerns I've heard from some of the farm families is they feel that what happens if this ag credit happens to go away after the bond referendum is passed. Personally, I don't see any way, shape, or form, even if it went away the following year, that it would be subject to anybody who was already enrolled in the program. I just do not see anybody at the state level saying, you know, this bond was approved 2 years ago and we're going to cut the program out, so now guess what? All that goes away and now you have to start paying I know, George, one of the concerns I've heard from some of the farm families is they feel that what happens if this egg credit happens to go away after the bond referendum is passed. Personally, I don't see any way, shape, or form, even if it went away the following year, that it would be subject to anybody who was already enrolled in the program. I just do not see anybody at the state level saying, you know, this bond was approved 2 years ago and we're gonna cut the program out, so now guess what, all that goes away and now you have to start paying full taxation. That just is not going to happen.
Well, our area happens to have two pretty powerful legislatures. Luckily, both Krisha and Gazelka have created some standing for themselves in the House and the Senate, as Paul's the majority leader. Both of them, I've got quotes from them you can find on our school website. I've asked them about, I was involved in this legislation. They're absolutely saying it's not going to go away. And you think, I mean, that legislation holds power in other parts of the state way more than here. You think, imagine going to Southwest and Southeast Minnesota and asking them to take this away, and they march on St. Paul. Really, it's big time for them. You think of these teeny districts like a McRae or a St. James, and land values floating around $5,000 an acre.
Right.
You know, they're the ones that demanded this legislation. You know?
Yeah.
Northwest.
Northwest, Valley.
Yeah. So there's really no way. And like you said, in some ways, one could argue you're better off getting it while you can.
Yeah,
If it
absolutely.
ever does go away, it would probably most likely be for something that would happen in the future.
Right, not anything that's going to happen after this law is enacted. It's just,
I think they just
won't
grandfather
happen.
them in.
And it is outside money coming into the district. It's
Yeah,
not
in a way,
money
yes.
that we're
In a
taxing
way.
ourselves, it's
Yeah.
actually outside
Yeah.
money coming into the
Right.
district that will be spent in the district.
Right. Yeah. George, I was part of the preliminary planning meeting, or at least I sat in on a couple of planning meetings for the new buildings and in your proposal on your new buildings or whatever. And I guess I'd like to just touch on that for a little bit. You know, from the last referendum, George, I'd like you to talk about, you know, what that project was versus the new project that is being proposed to the voters now.
Well, thank you. Also, thank you for being part of that committee. We had a meeting to show the results of the community survey. We asked for people to volunteer to be on a facilities committee. We got about 4 or 5 people that volunteered, and I felt that wasn't enough. And I talked to the school board members. We ended up getting 25 people to give their time for a few meetings in December or January, and I'm glad you were a part of that. So it was great. I was really honored by the fact that many people were willing to volunteer their time just to talk about what to do. So what we did is we took some of the data from the survey, and the project that was failed in May, and that's why we did the survey, to see what do you support, what don't you support, what dollar amount would you support. The auditorium was a big cost item that wasn't supported. The cost of that large gym on last year's plan was a big cost item, and we felt like we had to reduce the project a lot. There was some support for it, but we reduced the gym significantly. It's less than half the size. But we found the classrooms were supported. The band room is supported, and if anybody's seen it, they would know we need it. That's part of what we're dealing with as a district is a 50-year-old building. I mean, Healy is 63, 68. That's what we have. So we have a 50-year-old and a 55-year-old high school. And frankly, you talk about not raising taxes. We've been picking off parts of that all along. Locker rooms are remodeled, gym was added, choir room was built, fitness center was taken care of, wrestling room was taken care of. We had no track. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needed repair that we have taken care of in the last 15 years. And there's still stuff on that docket. We've done 2 of the 3 science labs. We still have a 1963 science lab that we're going to get at in a year or 2. But we've been doing all those things with cash and not raising taxes. So that's part of the band room is a must, and the kitchen is a must. We just have to do that someday. However we get it done, we just have to. That's how I see it. So that, and then the classroom. So basically, we cut the ask in half. We thought we wanted to get under 10 million as far as what the referendum would be, and we're right under that, 9.9 million. So it's just about 10. That's half the price of what we asked the voters to approve a year ago. And it focuses on the areas that they said they would support, which is elementary classrooms, parking lot, kitchen, band rooms. So that's what we did.
I think the plan, when I looked at what was being worked on and what was being proposed and the dollar amount, I think the plan gives you basically what you need now, today. I'm sure it's going to give you a little chance or wiggle room for expansion a little bit, but it certainly isn't anything extravagant, and it's kind of a bare bones thing, and I think the price was very conservative, and I think that you did a good job putting this thing all together, working with the folks to try and coordinate this, and with your input putting this all together. So I said that I can't stress enough to people how important the school district is to our city. That's why I am supporting the project. I know that's why all of you understand the same thing, and you're here in support of the project as well. I guess one thing else that I've been seeing in the paper a little bit in some of the editorials, and I don't think that people are really thinking things through with a lot of the comments that they're putting in some of the editorials. I can't tell you all enough how fortunate that we are to have a superintendent like George working for the school district. If George wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be as successful as we are, number one. We wouldn't be as popular. People wouldn't want to be coming here, I don't believe, without George's administration. And I think he's an extremely hard worker. He has went out. I mean, George did not have to and was not forced to go out and try and get this done or even create this. George recognized what he had, what he needed, and he has been out for over a year now working his butt off to try and get something passed for the betterment of our community and our school district. So I would like to say thank you, George, and I know the committee feels the same way that we have here this evening, and we're fortunate, like I said, to have you, and thank you very much for all your hard work.
Well, thank you.
100% agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Without George and Frank Weber. Frank, many years ago, we helped with him also. He's the one that introduced getting the college credits up at Brainerd Community College and did the interactive TV, and that was like pulling teeth to start with. So I feel really happy to have another Weber on board because I really respect what they do.
Frank's just on his piggyback. Hope you're watching.
He's an author now.
No, but you know,
Frank, if you're watching, I know George is getting a little.
but related to that is when you look around the area school districts, and superintendents seem to be moving around every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
George has been here now, what, 15, 16
Yeah,
years?
crazy.
Cold Spring's gonna get a new superintendent.
I keep looking at the paper.
You know, but when you look at, like Sauk Rapids just got one,
Yeah.
all the area schools, you look at how long their superintendent's been there. They're not there much longer than 5 to 7 years, and they're moving. So it's good to have that consistency.
That stability, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate the compliments. For me, I don't really know how to do it, and I've done it before in a different place. Any other way than having a mission, being driven by that mission, and then staying long enough to surround yourself with great people. Because I don't know how to build a business really any other way. And for those of you that are in the business, especially a big business, it takes lots of people. In the end, those parents love the teachers more than they love me, I promise you that. I'm just lucky enough to have been here long enough to get a bunch of loving teachers, which isn't an easy thing. Every one of you that's ever hired an employee, what a key decision that is every time. So now we have different principals than I got when I first came. We have a lot of teachers, and you want to hit a home run every one of those opportunities. And if you do, suddenly magic is happening all around you. You know what I mean? Because they're just doing great things without you knowing about it, which is exactly what you want. So I feel like that's all I've ever tried to do.
And I feel
that's
that
why I do it.
to keep that going, we need to have an adequate facilities.
Right,
If you want good teachers to come here, because they can go anywhere.
Right.
They don't have to come
Yeah,
here.
there's a labor shortage, big time,
In
in every
teaching.
industry, and certainly in teaching too.
Yeah, and they don't have to come here. And if we
That's
want
true.
good ones, we need to have good facilities.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think the whole bond issue, referendum thing, is really a must for the whole area, not just for Piers alone. One of the things that always strikes me is when you see the teachers who are over at the school retiring, and you look at the years they've been here, 30 years, 40 years, there's a reason they stayed. They must have loved their school, they must have loved where they were at, and I think it's our responsibility to try to keep that momentum up in this area and keep these teachers and our superintendent and keep this thing rolling for us. And I think a yes vote is the right thing for this bond issue.
Well said, Harry. I agree. Did any of you folks have any comments that you'd like to make for the folks at home? Or George, feel free. We have a few minutes here yet, and if there's anybody who'd like to make any other comments about the project or some of your concerns or things of that nature, feel free to speak up. If you don't, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming and volunteering to sit in on this. I know it's not always easy to ask somebody to come in and sit down in front of a TV camera and express your concerns and your feelings and things of that nature. So, George, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you again for all your hard work, and we wish you the best of luck come April 10th. And remind everybody to get out there and vote. I think it's really important to get as many people out to vote as possible. And yeah, we need to support our schools. So once again, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Toby, for inviting us.
Thank you.